What have we done to the Xbox One? What is going on, guys and girls? It's GhostRobo here with a video all about the Xbox 180, the DRM reversal that went down Wednesday afternoon, yesterday, midday. Whew, let's get our facts and figures straight first. So, what happened? Microsoft decided to completely flip-flop and basically remove all system-level restrictions and requirements revolving around online and DRM. So what that means is that the Xbox One no longer requires an always-on connection. It no longer requires a once every 24-hour check-in. It no longer places any restrictions on physical games. You can trade them, you can rent them, you can sell them, you can give them to your friends, you can eat them, you can crack them in half, you can do whatever you darndest will please do with those circular things, and they won't limit it. And this is going to require a day one patch. You'll have to connect to the internet for a quick burst of time in order to basically remove all of these features from your system. But at what cost? What are we losing? And I think that we're losing quite a bit of cool, progressive, forward-thinking features. And right off the bat, I want to state that I think in my opinion, the 24-hour check-in was kind of a maybe too stringent requirement and would have negatively impacted a good subset of people. And so I'm glad that that portion is gone. And I know that 98% of the people are happy about that as well. But I do have to be honest with you and say that I'm a little bummed out with the rush in which they reversed course. Now, I know that the negative response, the negative feedback, the outcry for change was at an enormous high. Boatload isn't even the right word. It's like galaxy full of complaints and criticism. And I'm sure that they were feeling it on the pre-order end. I'm sure that they were feeling it in their email inboxes. I'm sure they were stressed as heck all week trying to figure out what the right thing to do was. And eventually, whether it was totally fan-based or GameStop-based or retailer-based or Jimmy Fallon, freaking out on national TV, I don't know. But they decided to totally 180. And I think that we then take a step back in quite a few ways. I know a lot of people were really down on the Xbox One, but I don't think that they really understood the full feature set of what we were gaining from this. Sure, it stinks to have restrictions. Nobody likes that. But there are some restrictions that are good for you and that help out and lead to a more productive and better future. And I'm not talking about that once every 24-hour check-in, so please be very clear on that. I'm talking about the ability to access your games in a nearly completely digital fashion, the ability to share your games with up to 10 people that did not have to be your family members in full capacity, the ability to have huge discounts a la Steam, which is what Microsoft was pushing towards, and the ability to remove disks from the equation and create an ecosystem that revolved around everything being on your system and taking that system with you and having it be all on there and people being able to access it from anywhere and your family sharing it and your friends sharing it and sort of the cool nature in the same way that Steam has become really cool with your games library all inside that little Steam folder. In the same way that your iPod has become really cool with your whole iTunes library all inside that little tiny device. It's a really forward-looking proposition that apparently America in particular and the rest of the world wasn't ready for. I just think that people jumped the gun. I think this was a huge case of boy who cried wolf, and unfortunately, the shepherds had to protect their sheep, which are console sales, and Microsoft was required to make change. We're missing some of the good stuff, though. We really are. We're dropping a lot of features that I think would have eventually benefited the consumer in the long run more than this reversal of courses. So let me paint you a picture of Microsoft going all digital and having some stricter DRM, but still allowing you to share your games with your friends and family. I know there was a rumor this morning that it was just going to be a demo version of the game. That was debunked very quickly by official Microsoft PR and was going to be full game access. And yeah, you lose out. You can't rent. You can't, resell on eBay, but you could trade in downloadable games. So now you buy an XBLA game and you can trade it in to Microsoft for some credit. And people want to quickly jump and say, well, Microsoft would just screw you over and steal your money and make it horrible for you. But remember that as much as they are a company to make money, they're also a company to win mind share, a company to be the best in the business. They're not going to go completely so hardcore one direction that they screw everybody over and no one wants to be on their side. They would have done things in a fashion a la Steam, which is sure, not everything's on sale. Brand new games aren't going to be $20 out the gate. But you could do a lot more when you know that you have full control over the ecosystem. And for some reason, people are very afraid to give up that control. They've already done it with music. They've already done it with PC games. They've already done it in a lot of ways with books on e-readers, Kindles, and Nooks, and iPads. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just the clientele. I don't know if it's just the concept of a $60 product or what. But people are very reluctant to relinquish any sort of rights on games. They think that somehow they're going to get murdered and stabbed in the back in the long run, and I just don't think that would have been the case here. I think we would have seen sales, and I think that actually it would have lowered the impact on your wallet, because I think you would have gotten cheaper games over time. I think that you would have been able to trade those games in, because remember, now here's what we're back to. We're back to GameStop. Go dump off your Xbox One game for $11.50, and then they re-sticker it for $55, and how much did you really gain? Maybe this is good for someone that has a ton of old games and is just interested in buying old games. But if I go through and I beat something in the first couple of weeks or even the first couple of months, and I'm getting just crap value from brick and mortar in exchange for me having to purchase something else at their store, I think you would have been better served to trade that into Microsoft, let them give you store credit to their store. They're guaranteed you're going to use it on their platform, so they can be a little generous, and they can have deals on top of it. How often does GameStop have deals? Sure, they have little bonuses, 20% extra, blah, blah. They don't really go on huge sale there. There is nothing that compares to Steam sales. And I don't know if Microsoft would have pushed as aggressively as Steam, but I think they would have gone close. They were already talking about it in official capacity. They were already making inclinations in that direction. And you cannot compare the Xbox 360 marketplace, which I know is overpriced and a little bit goofy. The current landscape is a retail-focused, disc-based landscape that does not compare to what Xbox One was going for. Xbox One was 3-4 years ahead of its time. It was pushing for something that would have created a completely new and unique economy that could have allowed for cheaper games for you. And nobody had seen how this was going to be implemented. You know, it's part people's fault for jumping the gun. It's part media's fault for just focusing and hounding. And it became this huge just rage of entitlement where right off the bat people are like, no, how dare Microsoft steal my rights? And so every question about the Xbox One focused on these negative policies. And maybe their PR did a crap job explaining it. Maybe they weren't prepared for the onslaught of attack. I don't know. But all of the cool stuff got buried. Because to me, personally, I would rather have the ability to call up my friend who lives in Michigan and say, hey, why don't you check out my new copy of Dead Rising 3? It's really fun. I'd love for you to see what you think. And then he says, okay, hangs up the phone, logs in, and takes it. Instead, now I have to, drive 4 hours north, give him the game? Like, to me, that's worse. Maybe if you're in 7th grade and you hang out with your buddies all the time and now you can swap. But again, in that case, you still could have done the same thing. And I just think that this attachment to the past, this attachment to physical media, is really slowing progress in the game space. Music's advanced beyond it. Books are on their way. Steam is pushing in that direction. And Steam is, it's a little feisty beast of its own. They definitely aren't the glorious guys of the world. They were heavily hounded in the beginning, but they weathered the storm. And now look at how much of a reward it's been for both them and the consumer. People are in a position where you can go and you can take a $10 bill and pick up 5 games some weeks. And that's crazy. And I don't know if Xbox retail AAA games would have ever gotten to that point, but I sure know the fact that they're grouping XBLA, indie, and retail in the same Xbox marketplace would have allowed for some much more extreme flexibility in pricing, especially if they were guaranteed that you could trade that back in for reuse and recycling in their store. And at that point, I would rather be exchanging bits for bits as opposed to going to GameStop, having to give them my game, get a little stupid, slip of very undervalued credit, and then watch them slyly turn around, sticker that bad boy, and sell it to an unsuspecting mom or dad for $55 used. Because here's the deal for me. Used games is sort of a weird beast because there's no decrease in value when it goes used. Okay, this is a whole nother topic, but just to touch on it briefly, a car degrades in value when it becomes used. Okay, even a physical book, in a lot of instances, degrades in value when it becomes used. Provided that the person didn't slobber liquid nitrogen on the disc, it doesn't degrade in any value. And remember how aggressively people pushed against DLC when it first was released. And people were like, oh my god, they're screwing us out of what could have been on the disc. And yes, some developers did. And I'm sure some companies would have taken advantage of you had these Xbox One policies advanced. But look at the good ones. Look at some of those real cool season passes. Look at some of those real cool extra characters in fighting games. New sweet map packs in shooters. Adventurous and interesting side stories in single-player games. Expansive new islands in RPGs that we get out of DLC that we would not have had people all brought out their pitchforks back then. And I just think it's sad that we never will experience, at least this generation, the full extent to which Microsoft wanted to advance gaming. And again, I know that the general sentiment is that Microsoft was out to eat you and kill you and swallow you and spit you out. But I can guarantee you, as much as they want to make money, they had to maintain some faith from their fan base, and that's why they're making this move. This shows you that it just disproves the baseless claim that all Microsoft wanted to do was steal your money. No. They wanted to create a very good system that was both profitable for them and the best in the business for the consumer, and that's why they're making this switch, even if I bet most of them don't believe in it and are against it. They're making the switch because they have to, because everybody is screaming and yelling and shunning them and ridiculously placing this extreme bias, and you don't even know what the PS4 is like. You haven't seen their streaming service. You don't know what companies are going to do on it. You don't know how third parties are going to react to an open system or a closed system. Nobody knows, not even me. Not even the companies for the most part. I'm sure they have a better idea, but there's this idea that everybody knows better than the people making the box. Me personally, I'd rather let the people who are in charge, for the most part, bring out the system and see what it is. If it sucks and is terrible, sure, 6 months down the line, let's push for change and rah-rah, tweet everybody we know and write letters to their moms and say, get rid of this DRM. But jumping the gun like this, we lost out. We're about a generation set back now. And I do think it's going digital, and it is going digital, and you have no choice in that matter. Maybe you do in the sense that you can still play old systems you don't have to buy. You definitely can do that. But everything is trending towards digital. Books, music, movies, TV shows, games. It's going there. And it's just, now we're just dragging our feet in the mud until it gets there. And some people aren't going to like that. Some people are not going to, I'm sure some people didn't like cars. I'm sure some people don't like airplanes. I'm sure some people don't like television. But it's going that way, and so why not let a company take some risks, be progressive, and see where it goes? If it didn't work out, you don't have to buy it. If it sucked, you still could have traded in your Xbox One hardware. You still could have sold your system on eBay. You still could have bought a PlayStation 4 instead. But now we never know, and the saddest part for me is that the boxes are becoming more and more similar yet again. PS4's got a little more power. Maybe Xbox has a little more cloud access. Some, slight differences in exclusives. A little bit different controller. But even the controllers are growing more and more alike. The boxes, oh, man. I'm just a little bummed out. I'm glad that people are happy if it makes them smile and, God relieves their stress. Some people were freaking the heck out at me, at Microsoft, at everybody on Twitter. Anybody that said anything good about Xbox One was like, eat their face. People just morphed into Bane and I don't know. I thought it was going to be cool. And a little sad to see it go. Like I said, I'm glad that 24-hour check-in is removed. I don't think it would have really impacted people as much as they thought. It probably would have negatively impacted me a couple times a year, but you could have used cell phone tethering. You could have used, I don't know. Great. The worst case scenario is I can't play games a few days out of the year. Boo-hoo, I'll go outside. Like, really. It's not the end of the world. And none of their policies were so destructive, so restrictive. Like, I've seen some of these other YouTubers, and I'm not going to name names, but get on the internet, they get on their YouTube channel, like, all these restrictions, it was so tight and tough, and thank God. Come on, guys. You know better than that. They weren't doing anything so egregious that we had to freak out. The 24-hour thing sucked. I agree. We're on the same page. But this other stuff about DRM, first of all, companies are still going to do a lot of it. Titanfall is still going to be an online-only game. So you're trading off some of these cool progressive features just to have some games be playable offline. So the games that still are always online are still going to be always online. You're not going to be able to play Titanfall without an internet connection. I'm sure there's a lot more games like that. Most of those free-to-play shooters are going to be the same way, probably on both PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. A lot of games are going to still push this DRM on an individual game-based level, just not on a system-wide level. And so you're going to run into a lot of the same problems and losing some of the benefits, which is just where I think the trade-off is bad. I'm looking out for you too. I really am. Look, I'm not somebody that likes to just drop money for the sake of dropping money or get screwed over by policy for the sake of getting screwed over by policy. I want the best for me. I want the best for you. I want games to be great and big and popular and awesome and innovative and creative and push towards being the premier medium for amazing entertainment. And so what that means is that it has to be successful for a great chunk of people. So, dude, trust me, I wanted this to be really good. I wanted it to be awesome, and I genuinely thought it was going to be. I thought that over time, over the first 12 months, people would be like, oh, this is why it works. I could talk about this for days. I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks so much for watching. Hope this video makes sense. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Very interested to hear your thoughts on this whole Xbox 180 thing. I hope that I made my points clear enough. Like I said, I could go on for an hour. But I think I got down when I needed to get down. I'm honest. I'm real with you guys. I'm not going to be all fake hype because that's what people want to hear. And I hope that you can appreciate and understand that. Still buying both systems. I still think they're going to both be cool. I'm still, fingers crossed, that every dang console is the best it can be and that we get awesome games because that's what it's all about. Great games, great fun. Let's do it. I don't care if it's Xbox One. I don't care if it's PS4, DRM, no DRM, whatever. Great games, accessible to a lot of people, good value, boom. That's what I'm about. That's what you should be about. That's what we all should be about. I just would like to see a little bit change in the waters. Would have been cool to see that pond rippled up a little bit. Would have been cool to see some waves being made after we've had a generation last 7 years. Do you really want the exact same thing with prettier graphics for 5 more years? Who knows? They still are doing some cool digital stuff. They're still doing some online stuff. They're still going to do some streaming stuff and cloud and all that. So maybe we'll push beyond this initial kerfluffle and advance farther than I think. That would be cool. Thanks so much for watching, guys and girls. Sorry, my voice is a little bit gone still from my post-E3 infection, whatever that was, bug, sickness, under the weather problem, but I'm back in full force, and I'm glad to be home. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. I do appreciate all your love and support. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video and found it informative. Until next time, everybody, drink some hot chocolate. We'll see you all later.